We've come down from Milawa, where we were doing the wine tasting yesterday. Took about an hour. And we're now in the high country, in a place called Mount Beauty. And it's living up to its name. Lovely late afternoon, nice and warm. Out for a walk round the pondage, they call it.
Pondage?
Yeah, the pondage. I think there's a hydro dam further up there in the hills, and they use this pondage to sort of regulate the water levels in the dam further up. So here for 5 days, and all being well, tomorrow
You'll be up there?
I'll be going up there somewhere, or up there. It's a 30k climb to a ski resort called Falls Creek, and it starts here in Mount Beauty. So see how we go tomorrow. Right then, here we go, just leaving the campsite, about to start this climb up to Falls Creek. So I think I've got about 1.5 kilometers just into the town before the climb starts. Just looking at the stats, I'll put them up on the screen. If I get this ride done, this will be the biggest day of climbing I think I've ever had. So prior to this, I'm sure it's about 10 years ago when I very slowly ascended Mont Ventoux in France, and that was 1600 meters of elevation gain, and it was pretty brutal. Sort of 8-9% average most of the way. I don't think this is going to be as steep, and it's certainly longer. Ventoux was 21k, this is about close to 30k, but the climb up is 1400 meters of gain. But during the climb up, there's actually a couple of spots where you go downhill. So on the way back, when I'm predominantly coming downhill, I've still got about 300 meters of climbing to do. So it's going to be over 1700 meters for the day. So I think it's going to, exceed the Ventoux climb. So we'll see how we go. Long and steady. Hopefully I can make it. See you on the climb. Okay, start of the climb. Beautiful day. Hopefully it's not going to get too hot, because it's quite a high elevation where I finished the climb. It's going to be quite a bit cooler than down here. So they're saying by like 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, when I should be getting there, it's going to be about 21, which would be great. By the way, time for the prediction on how long it's going to take. Ooh, 2.5 hours. I'd like to be nearer 2. We'll give it a go. But I think realistically, based on the speed I was going up Mount Dona Buang, that was less elevation, half the distance, and that was 1 hour and 45. So I think realistically it's 2.5. Let's see. Okay, I'm about 6k into the climb. I've climbed a couple of 100 meters, and now I've got one of the downhill sections that I know I'm just going to absolutely hate. On the way back, my legs will probably seize up. Oh, it's quite a bit section. Oh, this is going to be horrible on the way back. Time for the first break. I'm trying to, through the discomfort of coming up the hill, enjoy the views, and there have been some nice ones already. I'm still relatively low down, I guess, so I'm assuming as I get further up it's going to open out. But what's good is the road's pretty quiet. There's the odd pulse of cars that come through, but really it's pretty good. So let's have a look at what's been happening. So I'm actually, there's again, Garmin has split this into 3 climbs, but I've already done the first 2 because they were quite short. So this is basically the final climb that's going to take me up to the finish. So I'm about here, I'm about sort of I don't know, quarter of a way through it. So it's telling me I've still got 14k to go and nearly 1,000 meters of climbing at an average of 7%, but you can see in the middle there's a downhill bit, so that 7% is probably nearer 8 or 9%. So that's like Ventoux type climbing. So I'm actually trying to think about it, because if I think about it, I'm not going to do it, because effectively I've still got to do the equivalent of Mount Donaubuang to get up to the top. Oh no, it's telling me I've climbed 500 meters. Okay, that's all right. The temperature is 30 degrees. It is getting a bit warm actually. I don't know about this 21 degrees at the top. Time for some cake and then heading off. Little downhill bit before what looks like a really steep uphill bit. A very appropriate sign for me. I think this is the steep pitch. Hope it is. I got no more gears to go down, so if it doesn't get any steeper. Okay, a sign. If you can't read it, it says 10 kilometers at 6%. My Climb Pro is telling me 8.95 at 6%. I'll take the 8.95. I would have preferred 4 or 5% though. This is definitely sorting me out up until now. When necessary, I've had to push over 200 watts. But the last section, last 5 or 10 minutes, it's been pretty steady, steepish. And I found I've not really been able to get up to 200 without my legs really starting to feel it. Trying to recover a bit now. Okay, I think I've just got to try and get around this corner. I do feel like I'm dying at this point. And of course there's more hills beyond this corner. Right, well my GoPro battery died just before I got to the finish, so I've come up from that direction. There was a nice little sign at the end which I'll stop on the way back down and take a photo of. The wind was in my face all the way for the last bit, which didn't help. So now I've run out of water So I'm going to have to climb a bit further. Let's see if I can find a shop that's open. Yeah, that was a bit brutal, particularly towards the end. Can't say that that was particularly enjoyable. I'm sure it will be when I reflect back on it. Managed to find a cafe that's open. Beautiful view. Fine. Yeah, let's go there, down the valley. And what am I having to try and get some energy back into my legs? The remnants of a cheese and avo toasty. And this is the second flat white because the first one went down a treat. This is what you should have seen as I got to the end of the ride, had the battery not died. I'm on my way down now, with the few uphill bits to come. Okay, I think this is the first of the big climbs on the way back. Try and get my legs back into climbing mode. Not that easy. 101 meters of climbing in 1.6 kilometers, 6%. Okay. With a nasty bit in the middle. And it's getting warm. Okay, made it down. It's pretty warm down here. I'm glad it was a lot cooler up there. So that descent with a couple of uphills that slowed me down was just under an hour, like about 57 minutes. Okay, what blows my mind, the fastest time up the hill is only a bit slower than that. I think it's about an hour. That's just ridiculous. How can anybody do that? Here we go. Back to the caravan. And a nice cold drink. I desperately need some water. So this morning, a couple of days after the Falls Creek ride, I'm out for, to begin with, an easy ride, and then shortly I'm going to be trying to get up to Wonga Gap, which is a climb of about, I guess, half the altitude gain that I had going up to Falls Creek. So we've stayed in Mount Beauty once before, a couple of years ago, and during that stay I went and climbed Mount Buffalo, and then the day or so after I did a recovery ride around this area, and I came over this bridge and I just thought, this is so beautiful, with this mountain stream running down towards the hills. Took a photo. I got it blown up and mounted. It's in our bedroom at home. So I've just taken another photo now so I can make a comparison of how it looks from 2 years ago. I know that's not very long geologically, but we'll see. Have a feeling I'm just about to start the climb. I think it's about 8 kilometers long. The only thing that might stop me, no, there's two things that might stop me. One is my legs, or lack of legs. The other is just whether the road's too busy. It is the main road from this valley over to Bright. Anyway, the good news is I'm not going to try and climb Victoria's highest mountain, just under 2,000 meters high. Okay, made it to the top of Tawonga Gap. I'm pleased about that. I have to say, I'm pleased. Only 2 days after that Falls Creek ride, my legs actually weren't too bad. I didn't go mad up the ride, but it's still a pretty substantial climb. So, well done legs. Well done bike. Just dropped a couple of minutes back down from the top now, and there's another lookout which actually is better than the lookout at the top, so you get a really good view of Mount Beauty down in the bottom there. Difficult to see looking at the screen, but probably you can see the pondage. Okay, time for a wrap up. So the intention was to come down to Mount Beauty, do the ride up to Falls Creek, and then a couple of days later do the climb up to Mount Hotham. Well, I just made the call that doing Mount Hotham today, 2 days after Falls Creek, was going to be a bit too much. So I've sort of pushed that one back, and we'll do that on a separate trip. Everything I read says that Mount Hotham's actually a bit harder than Falls Creek, so I think I'd probably finish up bailing out halfway through, so probably not worth trying it today. So instead I went up Tawonga Gap, which is the main road through from Mount Beauty to Bright. But it was a really nice climb. I'd sort of was thinking, because it's that main route through, it would be quite busy, but there was hardly any cars. Probably 5 or 6 cars passed me on the way up and no cars on the way down. And it's a pretty steady ride. It's 500 meters ascending. So what's interesting is looking at the stats. My average heart rate for that climb was 160, and my power output was 200 watts normalized power for the climb, which took me 45 minutes. The Falls Creek climb 2 days ago, which was over 2 hours, of which, yeah, the climb was certainly over 2 hours, 2 hours 25, I think. My average heart rate was 153 and my normalized power was 188. So what's interesting is I don't actually get that much of a drop off from the power I did over 45 minutes, which was 200, down to the 188 that I had for 2 hours 25 minutes. So that's a good sign in a way, that I can keep that level of power going, but it's just not enough power. That's the problem I've got. I mean, I'm hauling 87 kgs around, plus whatever I've got on the bike in the way of drinks and whatever, so probably close to 100 kgs, and only being able to put out over a sustained period of time, you know, close to 200 watts is just not getting me up these climbs quick enough. So they've just finished the weekend just gone. Probably one of the toughest rides for an amateur that's possible to do is the Falls Creek Alpine Classic, whatever they call it. I'm sure it's not that. But basically it's 225k and it's over 4,000 meters of climbing. So you go up Toowoomba Gap that I've just done today after descending from Falls Creek, and then you do Mount Hotham, and then you've obviously got a lot of undulating ground which probably accumulates another 1,000 meters of climbing, and then you've got an absolute shocker of a climb at the end which goes up to Falls Creek from the back side of Falls Creek. There's a cut-off time of 13 hours. The time that it's taking me to get up Toowoomba Gap and how long it would take me to get up Mount Hotham and whether or not I'd even be able to get up Falls Creek at the end, there's no way I would get within that 13-hour cut-off time. So yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest, whether or not 15 years ago when I was younger and doing more cycling, I'm not even sure I could have done it then. I'm just in awe of these people that do it. It's incredible. So certainly if I'm going to do some events, I've got to limit myself to shorter events. But even for those, I struggle at the moment. I think 15 years ago, my FTP, so my power that I can sustain for about an hour, was probably about 220 watts, maybe 230. And I think, well, looking at the numbers that I've been doing the last week, I'm pretty close to 200 watts at the moment. So I'm actually, for 15 years and my age now, I'm actually not that far away from it. But even if I get up to 220, 230 watts, I'll probably have to lose about 7 kgs, get down to about 80 kgs to even start to get an FTP and kilo combination that is going to enable me to do these climbs at a reasonable pace. So whether or not I'm going to be able to do that, I got no idea, but I'm going to keep on going and just see, as I said a couple of rides ago, see with this experiment of how my 67-year-old body responds to this level of activity. But I have to say, I'm really happy I managed to do that Toowoomba Gap climb today, only 2 days after doing that Falls Creek climb. So, that's a good sign. So let's take some positives out of it. Bye for now.